Welcome in this video. Everyone knows this feeling when you're stuck in this self-sabotaging cycle. When these patterns appear again and again, it feels kind of hopeless or frustrating. And because of that, I will talk in this video how you can break these patterns. And and then you can basically just rewrite your subconscious and rewire your brain. And if you do this shit won't appear anymore. And it's kind of helpful in a lot of situations. Also, for example, like in business with your clients. Because let's say you write to a potential client and out of nowhere you have this fear, and then this avoidance patterns activates. And if you stay unconscious, you are in this moment like kind of a victim to this situation. But if you decide to be conscious, you can take influence on that. And I will now talk about the full instruction, how to change all of that. So it starts with the first step, and this is that you think about these patterns when they appear, like there must be a trigger to that. For example, it's a sound. It's when someone starts to talk with you. For example, you're on a sales call, or just someone says something to you, and then out of nowhere you feel this trigger. So it's because of the voice. It can be because of an image, okay, because of what you see. It can be because of the voice. It can be also sometimes because of what you smell, but mostly it's because of what you hear or see. Okay, and just think about the trigger and when does it activate. Okay, there must something happen. There must be like some kind of trigger. And for example, like I said, you see an image, you see on your calendar, oh my god, I have an appointment soon. And then you feel out of nowhere like you feel too much, you feel overwhelmed, you take it way too important, you build too much importance about that. So just become aware of the trigger. Where's the trigger? What is it exactly? And then the job is basically just to become of that aware. Okay, just become in the situation, in the situation itself, become aware, become conscious of everything. Okay, become conscious, become the observer, and just observe everything for a short moment, your whole reaction, your emotions, what you feel in the situation. Okay, you just observe at the start, and after that you literally just ask yourself, okay, what will be the consequence if this pattern stays? Okay, what will be the consequence? By the way, I call this pattern because it's a neutral word. Because a lot of people, they use the super fancy words and like hardcore self-sabotage. I know I said it at the start of the video, but when it really comes in the long term of using, I always try to use a neutral word, because otherwise it always feels like you fight against something that you can't win. A lot of people do this. Like, I was in the past in the 12 steps groups, and they call themselves very often, I'm this and that, I'm that alcoholic. But at the end, by using such hardcore words, especially when it comes to negative behaviors, that you say, I have this super hardcore self-sabotaging behavior, you just make it bigger than it is. Okay, the words give this stuff power, especially if there are emotions behind it. This is why I use very often just neutral words for that, at least personally. This is just a pattern. There's nothing special about that. It's just a pattern like every other pattern. Okay, let's continue. So after observation, the next step is literally just connected with pain. Connect this old pattern with pain. That means that you ask yourself, okay, what will be the consequence if I hold into this, right? And after that, you just ask yourself, okay, what will be great if that will change, right? What will be great if you will have a different pattern? What will be different then in your life? Okay, especially at the start, do this. And later, after that, you literally can just tap into this emotion of your new pattern. It's very important that you have clarity. What will be the new pattern be? It's very simple. Very often it's the opposite. So if you have avoidance, for example, then you just decide to do the opposite. So stay there in the situation and feel, instead of anxiety, feel trust. Just the opposite. Very often it's just the opposite. Okay. So, okay, you basically just tap into this emotion. You just visualize basically your new pattern. You create an image, you feel this, and you act. And you practice that. You practice this cycle, what I described you. And the most important part is that you know in advance in what kind of situation these old patterns appear and what the new pattern will be. I recommend you to write everything down at least one time, because then you know the exact chain reaction and also you know your new pattern. If you don't write it down, or if you don't memorize that, then it will be a surprise. And this means in this situation, when it appears, you will be overwhelmed. You will be way too overwhelmed to think on your new pattern or something like that. Okay? This is why you have to know it in advance. You can even visualize that. So I will just sum it up. So the first thing is that you think about the trigger that appears. It all starts with a trigger. And it can be an image, you see something, okay, or you hear something, a voice, for example. So it must something to do with your senses. So you have to know what it activates, okay? And after that, you just become, the observer. You just observe everything when it really happens. Like when it really happens, you just observe. And you connect it as this. This is what you can do, especially at the start, okay? That you connect it with pain. If you're already very aware of the pain, you can also later focus on the pleasure part, just on the pleasure part, to make it stronger, to make this pattern stronger. Okay, so what will be the consequence? You focus on the pain, then on the pleasure. And after that, you just tap into this emotion shortly by visualizing a new pattern and then practicing that. You just visualize that and you act, right? You tap into this emotion. And it can take a while. It takes more than just a couple of days, especially if it's really a deep-rooted pattern. So take time with that, man. It's necessary to have patience at the start. And yeah, the other important part is just that you know all of that in advance, because you will react very often automatically. It will be difficult to stay aware, okay, in such difficult patterns. This is why you have to know all of that in advance and write at least one time down. Otherwise, it will be difficult very often. So this is why I recommend you. By doing that, you rewrite your subconscious. You reprogram your subconscious. You create a complete new pattern. That means your life changes. Okay? Very often life is decided by patterns. We are very often influenced by all kind of patterns. If you can change a very deep-rooted self-sabotaging pattern, then you can change your life, right? Yeah, I hope this video helped you, and yeah, stay tuned. See you next time, man.